Hi, everyone. Welcome to our PD session on an extremely important topic, assessment in the early learning math classrooms. My name is Melanie Harding. I'm the K-3 Math and Science Coordinator in the Office of K-3 in the Division of Early Childhood Services. So let's get started. So here's our agenda for today. We're going to be talking about types of assessment with a focus on formative assessment, which is what should be happening daily in all pre-K through third grade classrooms in some way, shape, or form, and I'm sure it is. Although many of you in the upper grades are giving end of unit assessments, we're going to touch on those as well, but you're also giving lots of formative assessments. And lastly, I want to offer you some things to consider about assessments along with some resources. So as you reflect on assessment in your classroom, consider these questions, especially throughout the presentation. How do you currently observe, collect, and document data? How do you use assessment tools in your setting? How do you assess children in a way that matches the goals of the assessment process and the context of the children you teach? And what resources, supports, help you to incorporate appropriate assessment practices in your daily work with children. So if you want to pause the video at any time, if you're watching this with a group and kind of reflect on some of these questions, there are going to be some times where I will show you a video and ask you to reflect. When we did this session live, we did a lot of chatting and sharing out. So feel free to obviously stop and talk anytime you like. So let's talk about a couple of common understandings before we start. We know that gathering, understanding, and using information about children's learning and development is a complex, challenging process. We also know that assessment's really important. We need to make critical decisions based on assessments all the time. But we also need to remember that at the center of assessment, formal or informal, formative or summative, should be the child in the chair. The assessment has to be authentic and meaningful for that child. We don't have time to waste on anything else. Lastly, we have to teach with intention. Assessments have to be used to intentionally plan our lessons, our activities, our experiences that meet our students where they are and then take them to the next developmental level. And we need schools that value and support a comprehensive, ongoing formative process that reflects children's social, historical, cultural context. So it takes a village. It's not just the teacher in the classroom. They need the support from the administration. They can't be kept to just a pacing calendar where they're going to be observed, and everyone should be on the same lesson every day and doing the same assessment on the day that it's scheduled. It really does have to be based on their students. I know this is a really tall order, and if you're not there yet, that's okay. We're just going to start to take those small steps to get there. Let's review some types of assessments. Assessments usually fall into those three main categories: diagnostic, formative, and summative. Diagnostic assessments help you identify your students' current knowledge of a subject, their skill sets, their capabilities. It helps you to clarify misconceptions before teaching takes place. Knowing students' strengths and weaknesses will help you to better plan what to teach and how to teach it. I'm sure you're all using some form of like diagnostics or pre-assessments from your core program or from digital platforms. And that's great. Hopefully they are giving you the data that you need. Those summative assessments take place after the learning. It's been completed, and then it provides you information and feedback that kind of sums up the teaching and learning process, gives you feedback about your own teaching and about what children are learning. Typically, there's no more formal learning that's taking place at this stage other than incidental learning. And that could take place through like projects, assignments. These are our unit assessments or our standardized assessments in grade 3. Those are usually our summatives. And then our formative assessment provides feedback and information during the instructional process while learning is actually taking place. It's used to guide, modify, enhance our instructional plan as teachers and individualize and differentiate instruction for students. And this is the type of assessment that we're really going to be focusing on today. So let's talk about authentic assessment. Authentic assessments help to tell the whole story of a child. It includes their developmental and their cultural story, their thinking story, their group story, like how they interact with a group. It's never a factory assessment. I'm going to show you a video. And again, you can stop this recording and talk about this with the person in your group. If you're alone, obviously, you're going to think about what is wrong with this practice and what could be done better. So I'm just going to show you a quick video, not long.
So you think you know Wix, but do you really? First up, we've got.
Can you tell me what number this is?
6.
Can you make a pile of 6 with the cubes? What number is this? 10. Can you make that pile into 10? What would you need to do? Would you need to add more or take away? Would you need to add more or take away? Okay, how many more would you need to add?
3.
What number is this?
7.
7. Can you make this pile into 7? Before you do that, what do you need to do? Do you need to add more or take away?
Take away.
Take away? How many are you going to take away? What number is this?
9.
9. Can you make this pile into 9? What will you need to do? Take away or add more?
Okay, I'm going to stop the video. I'm sure you're thinking of many things that you're seeing that, hey, by the way, the child can do really well. The teacher's obviously doing, her core resource assessment. It looks like she's following a book and then giving a, kind of like a task-based assessment, which is fine. But what could be done better? We know that this is not like an authentic, playful context at all. By their very nature, observations and other formative assessment instruments tend to meet this criteria. However, it's not always possible for formal measures. So this was more of a formal measure. Wasn't fun, wasn't playful, wasn't authentic. She wasn't applying knowledge to anything. She was just simply completing a task. And I'm sure if the teacher had watched her in centers before, she probably already knows that she can produce a set of 7 and then produce a set of 10 and know that she's adding 3 more to get that. So I kind of feel like this might be a waste of her time. Again, not picking on a teacher at all. Oftentimes teachers are given these tools and said, hey, I need this assessment done by this date. We're all going to compare the data. When in reality, we could use a checklist or some brand of authentic assessment like a portfolio to kind of document what children do know and where they are in those developmental progressions. So just try and make sure that we take measures to ensure that assessment items are presented in that playful content. For example, a math item could just ask her to pretend she's in a grocery store shopping and need to figure out how many bananas to put in her shopping cart. And that's how she could assess the counting skills. Or for a third grader, maybe how many multi-packs of batteries do we need to buy based on the number of individual batteries they need for that task. So then they would just kind of draw it, gather it, work with a partner, and then they could assess those skills. All right, let's watch another video of a kindergarten assessment and think about what differences you notice in this video. All right, let's go back, make it a little easier. Hold on. Okay.
All right, take your cup, shake them up. Whoop. Dump them on your plate.
In the middle?
Well, what I want you to do is spread them out. Leave them the way they landed. Yep. And I want you to sort them. The yellow ones on the yellow side and the red ones on the red side. What have you got going here, James?
Eight yellows and one red.
All right, I think you're missing a chip. I'm going to add one here. Okay, so you have 8 yellow and 1 red. So tell me the combination that makes 9. 8 and 1. Can you say that?
8 and 1.
Make 9. All right, Near, what combination did you end up with?
Okay, so 6 plus 3 equals 9.
Okay, tell me about your combination.
Let me just count these ones.
Go ahead.
So 6 plus 2 also
that's
makes
a yellow
9.
one.
Can you count those red ones again?
0 points for high.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
So, what is the combination?
7 plus 2 equals 9.
All right, can you say it in a funny voice or a singing voice?
7 plus 2 equals 9.
Wonderful. All right, so tell me what combination you came up with.
5 plus 4
Makes 5. Count them together again, remember?
5 plus 4 makes 9.
Could you do it in a funny voice?
4 makes 9.
Okay, I'll stop it there. So I don't know if you noticed some differences, but you may have. And you can tell the teacher is still able to assess students' ability to decompose. They were decomposing number 9, but it was in a more playful, fun way in a small group. Children can still be assessed individually. And think about, again, what other skills could be assessed. And I'm not going to talk to that right now, but you can stop the video and talk to your partner. There's so many other skills that are being assessed there. Okay, let's talk about this. This was says talk about on the sticker. This was in a preschool classroom I saw, and it had a rubric that went along with it, and it was an actual assessment of the preschool standard. And it listed the preschool standard, and there was a rubric. Can they actually do this? But it was a factory like drive-by assessment. I know this may or may not be happening in your district. Most likely not, but I did see this in a district. And I thought it was interesting because they were displayed. They were, they thought it was okay because it is an artifact of, hey, can kids do this? But really think about what is this assessing? Is it really meeting your desired goals? The standard that it was attached to was KCCB, so count to tell the number of objects. And you could see that they could count the apples on the tree and then circle the number. But there's so much more than that we could be assessing. And there's games that we could be playing, and there's small group activities that we could do. Because this is a one-shot deal, and they're sitting in a small group. They could be looking at their partner's work. It's not really giving you a lot of information about cardinality, even about counting, those how many questions that you could be asking when you talk about what's on the tree and what if I added one more and change the way the apples look on the tree, because 5 this way could still be 5 another way, and things like that. So let's just look at some alternatives to that. This is a game that could be played in a small group. And when you're watching this video, think about these 2 questions. How can a teacher use games such as this in small groups to assess learning? Because there's many games you can play. This is just one example. And I'm going to show you the whole game because it kind of is something that can be done from preschool all the way to 3rd grade. And think about what standards and skills teachers can assess using this activity. Let's look at it.
In the Count and See board game, children roll dice and place tokens on the game board based on the numbers they roll. There are 3 different levels to this game, which allows you to start out playing with lower numbers and then gradually work up to playing with higher numbers, and eventually to start using addition and subtraction. All 3 levels of this game can also be played using our Count and See cards instead of a board. You can check out the games Roll 1 and Roll 2 to see this in action. But sometimes it's nice to be able to just put down a single board and play without having to keep track of cards. To play, you'll need a Count and See board for each pair of players. Throughout the 3 levels of this game, sometimes we'll be using regular dice, and other times we'll use these dice that have only 1, 2, and 3 dots on them. You can make this type of die yourself by drawing dots on a cube. Finally, you'll need enough tokens or other small objects to cover the numbers on the board. Okay, starting out with level 1, I'll get out the board that goes from 1 to 3, and we'll use one die that I made with only 1, 2, and 3 dots on it. To play, I'll roll the die, I get a 2, and I'll put a token on the number that I rolled. Then the next player goes and does the same, and we keep taking turns until all the numbers have a token on them. And this is great for kids to just get started counting and recognizing the numbers on the dice and on the board. For level 2, I'll get out the board that goes up to 6, and I'll use 2 of the 1 through 3 dice. Now this is where it gets interesting, because now when I roll the dice, I can either put tokens on one of the rolled numbers, or on both of the rolled numbers, or on the sum of the 2 rolled numbers. So here I rolled a 2 and a 3. And I could put 1 token on my 2 or 1 token on my 3. Or I can put a token on both 2 and 3. Or I can add them together and put a token on 5. So I'll add them together and put my token on 5. Then it's the other player's turn. If children aren't quite ready for adding the numbers together, you can also use this 1 through 6 board with a regular die and play like before, where you just put 1 token on the 1 number you rolled. But if kids are ready for more of a challenge, you can get out the board that goes up to 12, along with 2 regular dice. We'll play with the same rules as level 2, but now we've got higher numbers. So I'll roll, and with this 5 and 6, I could put a token on 5 or on 6, or I could put tokens on both 5 and 6, or I could add them together and put a token on 11. And sometimes we play that rolling doubles is a wild roll, meaning that when you roll doubles, you can put a token on any number you want, which is nice because some numbers like 12 can take a long time to roll. Another way to play is instead of making doubles a wild, you could write up a 0 card and play with subtraction. So I'll put my 0 card on the side here, and now if I roll, with this 5 and 4, I could put tokens on 5, on 4, or I could add them together for 9, or I could subtract 4 from 5 and put a token on the 1. Then when I roll doubles, that will let me subtract and put a token on 0. This set of games gives children lots of practice recognizing numbers of dots and connecting those quantities to the numerals on the board. They're also practicing a skill called subitizing, which is when you immediately know what numbers you rolled without having to count each dot on the dice. And once you move on to later versions, children are practicing addition.
Okay, I'm going to stop there. So what types of activities, what was the activity kind of assessing? There's so many things. I'm sure that you can stop this and talk about it. He just started to name a few. But I'm going to keep moving. So children, yeah, they're recognizing the numbers of dots on the die. They're subitizing. They're connecting that quantity of dots to the numerals on the cards. When children combine their dice roll, now they're adding 2 numbers together. And they have a concrete visual model of that too, which is awesome. And they might need to count all the dots on both dice. Sometimes they don't. You can start to assess, hey, are they able to supertize? That's 5. I'm going to add 3 more, 5, 6, 7, 8. What types of strategies are they using? Are they using counting on? Are they doing counting all, where they're counting all the dots? So these are really good ways to assess strategy thinking too. And then children, like he said, might also notice that some numbers are harder to roll than others. They don't come up as often, so they're starting to learn strategy and things like that. You can really assess a lot of information here, and it's fun. Um, so authentic formative assessments, again, games are just a fun way to do it. They just have embedded assessments that can allow teachers an opportunity to observe and assess student understanding of those skills and concepts throughout the learning experience while kids are having fun. Um, there are games and engaging activities included in all of your programs. So think about that. Work together as a grade level team and determine some of those fun, engaging activities, tasks, games that are built right into your core program. No matter what you're using, I know they have fun games and activities in there. And they're usually aligned to standards because that's the goal, right? Standards mastery. So if through data it's determined that hey, my students are really struggling with a particular concept or skill. Let's come together as a team. Are you guys having the same problem? Let's talk about the data and let's think about some instructional plans that we can make. What are some games and activities that we can use to assess this skill and work through it some more and bring that data back once again? There's so much you could do with your core resource. But that game I showed you before was on a site called Young Mathematicians. Really awesome games and activities. And everything has Blackline Masters. You can just print out those cards, those game boards. So if your core resource doesn't have it, don't go down a rabbit hole to Pinterest or Teachers Pay Teachers. There are good places that you can go. Young Mathematicians is one of them. All right, let's talk about the cycle of an authentic assessment. I've said that word a couple of times, authentic assessment, and there is a cycle. The first part of the cycle is observation, learning to see. Documentation, capturing the thinking and learning moments, because you have to document. Presentation and reflection. Now we're going to share and unpack the learning, like we just talked about in our PLCs. We might be bringing that data with us. And then the next step, take what you're learning about the children and build on their strengths. You really want to think about asset-based learning. Where are they and where do we need to take them? So authentic assessments can involve complex problems and projects. They can also involve simpler tasks as well. They can be a portfolio. Sometimes authentic assessments can be considered summative because they can measure learning that's really already occurred, like in your project-based learning assignments. However, authentic assessments can be thought of as formative too, providing teachers and students with feedback and progress checks about their learning as they go. So let's talk about that, the first and second step in that cycle, observation and documentation. So one way to observe children is simply through kid watching. Kid watching, it's not about watching to see what skills kids can or can't do, but it really involves learning about children in terms of their identities, their experiences, their attitudes, their language, their culture. It's not just observing and taking notes, it's knowing that whole child. We need to know children to be able to teach them. How do they interact within a group and with their partner? What's their language in math? What scaffolds do they need? So we really need to do some kid watching and understand who they are before we can teach them. Some of the smallest things are really important. Like I said, how they work with a peer, or even like where they stand or sit in relation to other children or adults, because we really need to know those things when we plan those learning activities and experiences. Don't make interpretations. That's the third thing I want you to think about. All of us come with various preconceived ideas and a different cultural lens. So we have to really observe carefully and with thoughtfulness and reflection. You think that you know, because I've been there. I've been in the classroom for many years, and I did come at it with, hey, I know how my children I used to teach in a preschool that had, before I went to a public school, it was a private preschool, and it was a lot of children from China, and they spoke Mandarin Chinese. And I thought I knew those children. And it was interesting, some of the things. I could tell you a funny story about some of the things that I had in my classroom. They're like, what is that? And it just wasn't something that was built in within their culture. And I thought, oh, I thought that that was something common to all children, and it wasn't. So we all come with that cultural lens, and we just really need to be thoughtful about our reflection. I'm sorry. We could also do, we also can document it using, just an e-portfolio, a notebook. There's lots of platforms you can use. There's private share sites that you can use to share with children's families. You can include videos and photos, comments about what children are learning. There's with so many ways that you can document this for yourself and for your stakeholders, like your families and your principals and so forth. And then based on those observations, you can plan those learning experiences and respond to children's interests, strengths, and needs, and decide how to guide those interactions and play. And we can offer evidence of the children's learning and development. And this tells the whole story. I'm going to click on this photos and videos just to give you an idea. Watch this child playing this game. And again, the teacher just took a quick video of it. She saved it in an e-portfolio and she shares it with parents. It's aligned to standards. It tells the parents a lot. Sorry, let me just get out of this. So think about that video. Oh my gosh, there was so much that she knew. There was that we could determine her assets and where to take her from there, because she was really in a 3-4-year-old class. It was a mixed age class, and she was definitely ready to go to a higher developmental level, even past those preschool standards. So we know kid watching is always happening, right? We're always learning about our kids every day. Just like I did as a preschool teacher, I did learn a lot about my children that were from different countries that I didn't realize. But throughout many content areas and even during play, we can gather lots and lots of anecdotal notes. Um, we have to we have to document it, and you don't have to do it any way in particular. Um, some of the teachers I worked with liked to do the post-it notes, or one teacher called this like the waterfall with all of the notes listed underneath their name. But I liked this note catcher that I created. It's just, the standard basically, and then how it aligns to a developmental learning trajectory, and then some notes. So where are they along that trajectory? It can be any way that's comfortable for you. Record keeping just helps you to facilitate discussions with your students about where they are in their math work, where they've been, and where they're going. So we know we need to be meeting with small groups every day, 2 or 3 small groups each day in math. And if you're trying to do that, there's a lot that goes along with that schedule, and you're going to forget things. I used to forget things all the time, especially when I was teaching kindergarten. In public school, I realized, oh my gosh, it was the end of the day and I didn't take notes in math, and I knew there was a child who was struggling or had a misconception about something, and I couldn't remember who it was. And I thought, oh, I think I'm going to remember, but I don't. I need to write it down. So really just pick a system that works for you, but document. It's got to be documented. All right, we're going to watch my former colleague, Sean, as he ends his small group activity with an assessment. So This small group activity, I had it in another one of our videos that was talking about small group instruction. It really showed every component of that framework, because in a small group lesson, it's about 15 minutes, but there's a small mini lesson. There's the focus and the learning expectations where the teacher's like, okay, so today we will, or you're going to be practicing. And then the teacher might be modeling that concept or strategy or skill. And then the kids are going to work in a group to do the actual math, do the activity. And then the teacher's going to start to monitor that work. They might be questioning, they might be prompting, and then at the end, it might be more independent, and that's okay, because that's when you're going to really start to see if children can do it. They could be working with a partner, and you could still be assessing, and then at the end, they would debrief and talk about, like, future. What are we doing maybe for homework to follow up, or what am I going to do in my dramatic play center to carry this learning over. So let's just watch Sean. He's doing that last piece where he monitors student work.
So we have a number. 10 plus 0 jumps equals. So what's our missing element? 0. Very nice. If there's no jumps, then we use the number 0. All right, erase it and show me another one, Messiah.
Because it's water.
Kaylee, help. I want you to work on this number sentence and let Sophia work on hers too. How did you find the number 4? Okay, can you show me starting with 1?
Okay, I'm going to stop it there. I love that Sean is letting them work independently now. It is a missing add-on problem, which is really, really difficult in kindergarten. And not only is he assessing, hey, can they solve these missing add-in problems, but how did you solve it? How did you use the tool that I showed you today? Because he really wanted them to use the number line and think addition or subtraction, depending on what was more comfortable for them. So he's assessing lots of stuff. It was great. All right, another way to document what we're observing, like I said before, is using portfolios. If this is a school-wide initiative, that's awesome, but don't let it sit and collect dust. Make sure that you're really using it, because these can really help you to paint that whole picture of a child. Like I showed you before, there's observations using videos, photos, work samples, writing samples. There's so much that will tell the story of growth for a child, and it's such a great thing to be able to share with your grade level teams and also stakeholders like parents. So how do we use all of this data that we're gathering? We know that those formative assessments are largely built on observation. Therefore, they're really most easily done during small group time and center activities. And that's how you're going to use this formative assessment to guide those activities. So during this time, teachers can watch, interact really deeply with children, because you're only going to have 2 to 4 kids in front of you in your small groups. This is when, like Sean was doing, you can really document what you're seeing. We really want to look at students' assets. That's what's essential during this time. Think about asset-based types of questions that you can ask yourself. And these are just some simple questions. What does this child understand about the concept I'm teaching? What's the child level of thinking in this concept? What ideas or skills does this child need to move to the next level of development? And what activities will I plan to bring this child to the next level? And that's where those developmental trajectories and that tool, the Learning Trajectories website, really help you, because it shows you the developmental level, but then it gives you an activity / assessment that you could do with children. And then it also brings you to the next level, which is awesome. So really thinking about what they can do, not what they can't do, is really important to guide your learning too. So when thinking about what they can do and then what comes next, we have to use those learning trajectories. And I know I talk about them a lot, um, but it's such a powerful tool. We're just not all math experts in the P3 classrooms. We all went to school to become an early learning teacher, which obviously we love this grade span. We love working with young children. We know how important it is, but that doesn't make me a literacy expert or a math expert. Oftentimes I'm a generalist. So sometimes we really don't know. And these tools like the learning trajectories really, really help you to find your way. So I'm just going to give you an example. Here's the learning trajectories website. Here's all of the concepts that children should be doing. And you're talking about addition and subtraction. It gives you all the levels. It also shows you, depending on the grade level, let's say we're a first grade student, it kind of tells you, well, where should a typical first grade student be? And it gives you the levels on the addition and subtraction trajectory. And once you click on the level, it'll also give you, what does it mean? What does it look like? There's 5 videos here, I think 5. Yeah, this one has 5 videos of what it looks like. Gives you other examples in writing, and then it also gives you all of these down here, small group or whole group activities that you could do with your children. So it gives you that goal, it gives you the assessment, I'm sorry, the activity / assessment, because all of these activities can be used as assessments. And then it tells you it shows you what you can do next, like what is the next level. So here we are, next level is part whole, plus minus. First, we're using counting strategies to find sums. Now we're finding part whole. So learning trajectory site is just a really good place to go to use that ASA-based information that you're gathering. And as I mentioned before, you need to document it. Find whatever works for you. Sean was using these anecdotal note catchers in the video. I can always share these with anyone who emails me. Again, I made these a while ago, so the standards have changed a bit, but it's just a good example of what a note catcher could look like. So if you are a team leader or a supervisor and you want to create these for your teams, it's just a good template. Gotta do what works for you. All right, so the standard, a preschool standard 4.4 asks children to develop their spatial and geometric sense. We have to think about spatial intelligence as the ability to envision or arrange objects, images, numbers, or even yourself, your little bodies. Spatial ability could be used internally, where they're generating, transforming, or rotating a mental image, or externally, where they're actually moving around objects. That's what we're going to show you today. So that's the standard that I'm going to focus on. I want you to look at this activity that Ms. Daniels is doing and think about what information about students' abilities can you glean from this activity, and how can teachers reflect on and modify their instruction based on what they learned. So we're not going to watch the whole thing, but think about those 2 questions. Again, just another way to observe in small groups.
Your ears, your shoulders, your head. Okay, let's get started. So the name of my game, this is like really cool. The name of my game is called Copy My Dots. You say, copy my dots. So I have a board here as a little box. You have a box on your board, and these are going.
Like a square.
That is a square. It is the shape of a square. So we're going to use these dots, and you're going to copy my dots, okay? Now watch me. Watch. It's like a little magic show. You ready? Now you can't see what I'm doing. Don't look. No peeking. Come here. I need you to help me. Ready? Copy my dots.
I did it.
Okay, good. So now, are your dots, do they look exactly like mine?
Yes, I have one on the left and one on the right. Let's see, let's check yours. How many dots do we have inside the box?
1, 2.
Good. How many altogether?
1, 2.
Good. How many altogether? Say two.
2.
Good. Ready? Watch me. Say one,
1,
two. How many altogether?
So she's even hitting on a little cardinality there, which is really cool. Keep moving.
Copy my dots.
Look at I made.
Okay,
Jaden,
look, Jada, you have to copy my dots.
look at Miss Daniel's board.
Copy my dots.
Do what she has.
Okay, so I have one over here in this corner, and over here. Let's see. Let's make sure.
All right, I'm going to stop it there. Sorry. Okay. So you can see she can really get a lot of information about their spatial intelligence. Can they envision and arrange those objects after watching her? Some of them couldn't. So what can they do? Well, they knew it was three, so they're starting to understand and be able to mirror that. They start to talk about cardinality. So they're able to count 1 to 1, that's an asset. Can they then say what the set is? With prompting, they could, but it's something they need to work on. So she's really starting to glean a lot of information just from that little activity. In this activity, hiding shapes, I'm going to let you watch this video, but I won't show the whole thing again, just a quick snippet. But think again, what information can you gather? And how can teachers reflect on and modify their instruction by what they learned?
Hidden shapes. The way that you play, first you close your eyes, you dig inside your bag, and you feel what shape, your shape that's in your bag. Do not pull it out. Take your hand out and talk with your friend about what you think the shape is. You ready? Okay, Isaac, close your eyes first. Capri, close your eyes. Okay, Isaac, don't pull it out. Okay, you ready to talk about it? All right, take your hand out. Don't pull it out. What shape do you think it is? Don't pull it out, Lucia.
A rhombus.
You think it's a rhombus? What do you think?
A rhombus.
Let's see. Pull it out and see. Let's see if it's a rhombus. Let's see.
What's that?
What shape is that?
Trapezoid.
It's a trapezoid. How'd you know that was a trapezoid, Lucia?
1, 2, 3.
Oh, it had 4 sides. 1, 2, 3, 4.
The things don't match them.
Yes, and 2 sides do not match. And
Okay, so knowing the name of a shape is just a small piece of knowing about that shape. This game actually helps children pay attention to the attributes that define a shape, like how many sides, how many vertices. We have to make sure we're exposing children to that math language. That was a 3 and 4-year-old classroom. So that one of those girls was 3, and she was using that vocabulary. So really, I mean, there's so many things that you can glean from that, but really, do they understand those attributes? Can they compare a rhombus and a trapezoid? And they could, once they actually saw it, they're like, oh, wait, it's not a rhombus, it's a trapezoid, because 2 of the sides aren't the same. So it was really just interesting how they use some of those words. But again, align it with a standard and really document how are children doing along that developmental trajectory towards mastery of that standard. This is just another really fun activity that you could use for so many standards. So it's how many are hiding or bears in a cave. So there was 7. Now I put some in the cave. How many are in the cave? Well, I see 4. The missing add under how many are under would be 3. And now you need to determine what that is. Students might need to use tools like Rec and Rec. They might need to use their fingers. They might know it mentally. And again, that's when you start to make it a little bit more difficult. Sometimes two caves. higher numbers, things like that. So think about some of the things you can assess using that. Here's an assessment like checklist. So again, you can use checklists, you can use note catchers, you can use whatever you're comfortable with. But here's an artifact. So children are now starting to say, okay, they were using 10 bears. There's 5 hiding. There's 5 out of the cave. There's 7 hiding. There's 3 in the cave. They start to actually document what they're saying and seeing. So you have an artifact and you have this checklist. So you're already able, just by this one activity, can they recite their numbers? Do they have one-to-one correspondence? Do they know cardinality? Can they subitize? Can they see that there's immediately 4 outside of that cave? Can they say what's more or less? And now can they decide how to decompose that 10, what's in the cave, what's not in the cave. There's so many good things that you can do. So to end this discussion about playful assessment, authentic assessments, just reflect on how activities can be planned together in your PLC to assess all of the standards. Because again, there's so many activities in your core resource. Just pick them out and use them. And if you don't have them, go to great resources like Young Mathematicians. Take a minute to read this slide because we're gonna jump into some more work around authentic assessments and feedback. Sorry. All right, so another really important piece of assessment is feedback. Even as an adult, I need feedback from my director to know if I'm doing things well or where I can improve. What did I do well and what's the next level? Because we're not perfect. We all need to get better at what we're doing. So this is a protocol that I loved to use and I shared it with teachers that I worked with. I thought that this was a really easy protocol because children, just like adults, love feedback. So it's called the RAP protocol. I got this from NACI. This is not something that I created. But it's W for well. What did the child do well? Let the child reflect that also on what they did well. Because if you're playing that bears in a cave game, are they able to subitize quickly what was outside the cave? That was what went well. Where did we need to work on our skills? Well, what was in the cave? So now I need to, work on decomposing the number 10. So think about what they did well. R is refer to the child's prior learning. It's just to build on what students know and can do. Again, it's that asset thinking, connecting the new with the known. A is for action and agency. Provide students with a plan. Interactions between an adult and child that encourage them to take intentional action and have autonomy of their own learning supports agency. So if I want them to, practice fair shares while you're in dramatic play, I want to see you giving fair shares. Everyone's going to get the same amount of cookies. When I come over there, I hope to see that in your dramatic play area. Again, for older children, it's going to look different. P is for practice. What can the child do in their center to continue the learning? And again, this is about how what I just said, basically, and also for older children, that feedback about homework. Why am I doing this homework? Because these children that get homework that's not attached to really what they're learning or what they're struggling with, it's not meaningful. Whereas Sean, when he was in that small group, I didn't finish the video, but he was able to tell them at the end, so your homework tonight is doing just this, basically. And he gave them a little strip of paper. It wasn't a big piece of homework, but it was like 3 practice problems. So not only do the children know what to practice at home, but the parents know what the children are working on. So think about that RAP protocol. I really do think that that works well with feedback for children. All right, we're going to talk a little bit about performance-based assessments using rich tasks. Again, there's a lot of them in your core program, so don't think you have to recreate the wheel. But another alternative to a rote summative assessment or a quiz is a rich performance task. And these tasks can be used to determine if the learners can apply new knowledge or learning to a task. The goal is for students to acquire knowledge and skills and then transfer that knowledge and learning to new situations, to understand wholly those big ideas. Students aren't just learning procedures rotely. They're applying what they're learning to a meaningful real world task. It's not about answer getting, it's transference of knowledge to solve problems. It's also about engaging in problem solving and effective reasoning, communicating mathematically. Sure, we need to assess those basics, but that's just the floor of math. It's not the ceiling. It's kind of like a sports game. We practice, 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 and then there's the game. The game is the authentic performance. So players need to take all they learned from their coach in practice about the skills and the drills and the plays, and they have to apply it to a game on the field or the court or the ice, whatever. It's not about summatively assessing the knowledge, skills, or strategies that lead up to the game. The coach is doing that, but it's formative. He's telling them, okay, instead of kicking it that way, kick it this way, or use your inner foot, not your outer, and things like that. It's about practicing the skills and getting feedback from the coach to get ready for the big game. It shouldn't be a big surprise. Like players in a game, they get to scrimmage even before a game. They see and practice the game before they play. We really need to allow students a chance to apply skills to tasks to practice. There's just such value in performance tasks. I can't say it enough. And again, I have to say, in some of these core resources, they have lots of performance tasks, and a lot of times teachers will skip over them, or they're told to skip over them. We just don't have time in our pacing calendar for this when you're really missing such a great opportunity. So these are just some elements of a good performance task. The goal can't be to recall a number fact. The goal is tied to conceptual understanding and the ability to apply the math. So rubrics help constitute what needs to be learned. And kids should see that. Like I said, it shouldn't be a big surprise. Um, good performance tasks not always, but should incorporate some purposeful use of technology. Also, if a task is truly authentic, it's more likely going to involve other content areas, which I love to do I used to love to do it in my classroom, along with the mathematics, really make it relevant and real. We know that there's a world outside of school, and more issues or problems tend to be interdisciplinary. They're never just in a math silo. So this is just some good criteria for a math task. Remember, the juice isn't always worth the squeeze sometimes. Make sure it's a worthwhile task. It has to be aligned to those important goals, and it really has to give you evidence that the children are understanding those skills and concepts and can apply it effectively, transfer that. And it really does need to be disciplinary. Here's some resources. This video is accompanied by this PowerPoint, so you can click on any of these and find some really good performance tasks. There's so many out there. Again, I just like to give you some resources so you're not recreating the wheel. You pick your grade level and you can look at all the tasks there, and there's a lot to choose from. And it gives you a rubric, which I love that one. There's so many to pick from. But again, check these out first, because really there are some good ones there. This is an example of my core resource. So here's my kindergartners. They were planning a party. They only have 4 chairs. More kids come. Now they have to get more chairs. How many more chairs do they need? How many will they have in total? And they started to draw it out. They started to act it out. It was a really great activity. So again, go to your core. There's going to be lots and lots of examples in there too. So let's move on to facts, because I know that that's something that we all feel as though we need to assess, because it's a really big part of math and the standards. So we need them to be accurate and efficient and flexible with their numbers and with their facts. But how do we assess that? Sometimes teachers come up to me and they're like, Mel, my kids can't add. And they always say, well, what can't they do exactly? But what can they do? Can they make 10 bucks? Are they struggling to add 7 or 8 or 9 to a number, which we know those are hard ones? Do they know some of their doubles facts? Can they add on 1? And if they can do some of those facts, how are they doing them? Are they finger counting? Are they head bobbing? Is it automatic? So what exactly are they having trouble with? Because I bet you that there's some assets there that we can build on. We need to use tools and resources like those observations, and running records for math facts are another great way to assess. And to find out what strategies are being used, and then we build on it from there. So when assessing those basic facts, we just can't assess for accuracy and neglect efficiency and flexibility. I had to bold it, but timed tests do not assess facts proficiency, and they will negatively affect students. There is decades now of evidence around this. Please, please, please avoid it. I did it when I first started teaching 25 years ago. I was doing some facts tests. I'm not going to lie. There's a lot of practices that I did not think were harmful. You see it right away, though. You see your children struggling. You see them becoming anxious and worried and upset, and you learn very quickly. But again, just be cautious. And I did make these mistakes. It's okay. Um, just fluency is not a four-legged stool. Accuracy, flexibility, efficiency, and eventually automaticity needs to be put together. If one of those leg stools or one of those legs is missing from the stool, it's not going to stand. So we can't just pick one or the other. Again, I just don't, I feel like I was a good math student and I couldn't do math drills quickly. And it shook my confidence a bit. If you're doing math drills or math mad minutes, so I would stop immediately. It's just not good for children on any level in math. High achievers are suffering just as much as children who are at the novice level of learning their facts, because they really do want to do really well. And they're shook. Again, I was shook. So please think about some alternatives. Some alternatives to time test could be interviews, observations, running records, two-color probes, written prompts. I'm going to get into some of these right now. Two-color probe. I do like the two-color probe because I have to be honest, it was fun. They like to pick their two colors. There's two parts of the assessment. First, the teacher gives students the two different color pencils, or they pick their markers or pencils, and the student starts the test in one color. They can start anywhere they want. And then after a minute or so, depending on the number of problems, you're going to stop them and say, okay, I want everybody to switch to another color. And then once they switch to the other color, then you can kind of see, yeah, their accuracy. But in part B of this two-color probe, you can look at the bottom of this first example. I like to ask students about fluency, about efficiency, about accuracy. So what was tricky for you? What was easy? What did you do, or what could you have done to figure it out? This type of assessment can give you so much more quick information, and it doesn't stress kids out like the traditional time tests. The teachers get to see, hey, who was able to complete it in the first color? They may have that automaticity. And who was able to finish all correct in the second color? Now they have accuracy. And who couldn't do it at all, or who did it but got a lot of them wrong? It's starting to provide a wealth of information, and you can really start to see what types of activities children should be working on. So if they're still struggling with those doubles facts, or if they can't tell you another way to solve 5 plus 9 by, like, making 10, and adding on, those are the things that they're going to be working on in their centers or in their small groups. They might know some of their 10 friends, but they need to work on bridging through 10 facts. So we really have to pay attention to what they know and how they know it. Now let's talk about observations using a running record and an interview. I'm going to show you an observation of a student who's supervising in kindergarten.
Ready? You're going to tell me how many you see. And you're going to tell me what you see. What do you see? You saw 3 and 5 more. How much does that make? 7. Okay, that makes 7. Let's count it to see. Where would we start? With the big number or the small number? We start with the big number, and then what would we do? So we would say, how many is that? 5. So how many is that?
8.
All right, here we go. I'm going to show you another one. What'd you see? What'd you see? You saw 10? All right, let's count it. Where are we going to start? Do we have to count all of these? 5. Okay, let me see.
I'm going to stop it there. There's more to watch if you want to continue to watch that, but you can see that she's starting to conceptually subitize. That means she sees two numbers quickly and tries to add them together. So she's perceptually subitizing, no problem. But adding them together, there's still some errors there. But she's again able to conceptually and perceptually subitize just with some errors. So now she's really ready to decompose numbers within 10. She's at the grade level goal of conceptual subitizing, so she could get more practice of the skill, but also, I think she could be decomposing a number so she could find all the ways to make 7 or 8 or 9 or, so on. And it was a fun interview type of assessment. Running records, let me just click on that. Oh, this is just a recording sheet. This is something that I got from Dr. Nikki Newton's book, Running Records. I could share this with you. I think she has this on her blog, so it's not something that she keeps under glass. You can definitely get to it. And she has videos online about how to do these addition running records. What I love about them is it kind of goes through all of the types of facts, like adding 0, adding 1 more, doubles plus 1, so on and so forth. And it also tells you here what you notice, like what types of strategies. Is it automatic? Is it 5 seconds or less? Or is there prolonged thinking? I'm sorry, 5 seconds or a little bit more. Or is it a prolonged thinking time? Are they finger counting all? Are they finger counting on? Are they counting in their head? Are they counting on in their head? You have to ask them. Maybe they just didn't know. Maybe they're guessing. And then, is it a wrong operation? Can they self-correct? Did they attempt to self-correct? So this is giving me loads of information as to what level they're on. And I can start to see, well, are they flexible with numbers? Do they have accuracy or do they have automaticity? And where am I going to start? Am I going to be adding 0, adding 1, adding within 5, adding within 10? Because this is going to tell me what they're working on in their centers. So you can see if they get stuck, somewhere around here, making a 10, adding 10, that's it. It goes on and on. So part 2, what I love about 2 is it talks, so let's say they got stuck here, adding 10. What's happening when we add 10 to a number? And this is kind of what they should say, or maybe they couldn't articulate it. All right, well, what's 10 plus 2? And then they might add all, they may add on, they may just know it. Maybe they are ready to move on from this, but it gives you a lot of information. So I ask them all of these questions, no matter where they got stuck. I go through all of these questions. What happens when you're adding 0 to a number? Oh, you get the same number. Or maybe they just can't articulate it. And then say, well, what is 8 plus 0? What's 5 plus 0? So do they know the strategy? No. Emerging? Yes. So what level are they at? Well, they're past this level, so let's keep it moving. And then it shows me, when I get to doubles and they struggle, or when I get to doubles plus 1 or minus 1, that's what they're going to be working on in their center. Loads and loads of fun facts games based on doubles and doubles plus 1. You know what I mean? So we have to really use this interview to determine where they are so we know what they're working on. And this is just about how they feel about math. Do you like math? Do you find it easy? What's tricky? What do you do when you get stuck? Because we really want kids to feel confident in their math. So that's just a running record. Again, if you go on to Dr. Nikki's site, you can get all of those running records for addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, and videos of what it should look like, because I'm explaining it really quickly and probably not as good as she would. This is something I use with my third graders. I really did like, oh no, I'm sorry.
iExcel is
This is
helping
not what I do.
15 million students
I'm lying.
succeed in math and language arts.
This is just a video.
On
I'm not going to go through this.
Hi, this is Dr. Nikki, and we're here today to do a math running record. And I'm with Miss Coco. And can you tell us your age?
Hi, my name is Coco, and I am 7 years older.
Oh, okay. So, like, what's 4 plus 1?
5.
Okay. What happens? What about 2 plus 2?
It counts by 2, so it would equal its second. You count 2 more numbers, and then it would equal that same number.
Okay, so what's 2 plus 2?
4.
What's 4 plus 3?
All right, so I'm going to stop there. Go watch Dr. Nikki's videos because it really is helpful. But you can see she gets stuck on, doubles plus 1 or doubles minus 1. It's just not automatic. She knows it, she'll get to it, but it's not automatic. So it's something that she definitely could use some more work on. The written prompts is what I used with my third grade. We had a lot of fun with, but you can use them with any grade level, really. They would kind of do a lot of journal. We would always do a journal entry every day. And these are some of the fun facts ones that we would do. So can they talk about strategies, explain how to use the count on strategy, or what strategy would you use to solve this number? Or a friend is having problems with these facts, what strategy would you give him? Or flexibility. Here's some prompts for flexibility. Using 6 times 7, I solved 6 times 7 using one strategy. Now try solving it using a different strategy. Efficiency. What strategy did you use to solve 9 plus 3? So on and so forth. And accuracy. What is the answer to 7 times 8? How do you know it's correct? How might you check it? And then just some fun creative writing ideas like a Dear Abby column for facts. So these are just some fun writing prompts that gets kids thinking about facts more. All right, let's just quickly do this end of unit assessment talk, and then I'm going to end. But evaluative assessments are sometimes necessary, but we just know that they're not sufficient. We need more. Too often we give that unit assessment, we log the grades in our grade book, we use them to determine our report card grades, or maybe it's a standard-based report card and it's still informing that, which is great, but it's just not sufficient. If you're administering those end of unit assessments, use the information. Before I talk about how to use that, I just need to talk about unit test reviews, because this is something I do feel really strongly about. When reviewing concepts, we know that children would just try not to do a quick unit assessment review before a unit assessment. You're not getting the real data that you want to get. You're really just giving them stuff to stuff into their short-term memory and spit out tomorrow. So I've seen teachers do that. And they've stopped and realized that, hey, it wasn't really giving me the information I wanted, because especially like I taught third grade for many years before going to K. And I remember thinking, like, you're giving them this test before the test, and they're all doing great on the test now. My kids weren't doing so great because it was really a true assessment of what they were learning. But when they got to the NJSLS, there were no surprises. No parent was coming to me saying, hey, my kid has, hundreds on all his unit assessments, and now he's, not scoring perfectly on the NJSLS. Why is that? Or sorry, NJSLA. So it's just a way to kind of be true to yourself as a teacher, be true to your children and their families, and give them a true assessment, and then really do some error analysis and target the small group learning around how they're doing. Because honestly, you can get them there now that you have this data. All right, so you took the test. Now what? After analyzing the assessment, review the results with the class, set some goals. And we can do class goals. I love this one. This was in kindergarten. She set a class goal, but everyone had their own individual goals. And they talked about, here's a plus delta chart down here, like how they are on their way to their goal. What could they do to meet their goals? It was like a plan, do, study, act cycle to meet this goal. You can do that with all grade levels, really. This was kindergarten, but you can do that across the spectrum. If they know where they're going and what their goal is, they have a better chance of getting there. So just, I mean, think about it. It's like your boss telling you, hey, you're doing okay. Just work a little harder for the next evaluation and maybe you'll get a higher rating. I mean, we need to know more than that. Together, teachers and students have to come up with a plan, what to work on and how to reach those goals. Too often, teachers don't involve students in their own learning. And the research shows that when students do get involved in this learning and they do analyze their own data and reflect on it, they do better. Post-assessment data check-ins with students can be really effective. I've seen it done so well. It just allows time for students to reflect on and talk about their misunderstandings. And I love when they come into the small group with students who also had the same misunderstanding and they start to talk about it and they learn together and reflect on it. It's just so great. It can happen in those small groups. It really shouldn't be like, let's go over the entire test together and take a whole class period to do it. It's really like picking apart the test and saying, okay, this group really needs to focus on doubles plus one. This group is focusing on, you know, using an array to solve multiplication problems, whatever the skill is. So really talking about the misconceptions with students, it could be in an interview. It doesn't have to just be in small group or centers, but in an interview, talk to them. Well, how did I do on the test? What did I do well on? What do I still need to practice? What's my action plan for doing it? And children can talk about, reflect on those things, and then start to set some goals. Math interviews with individual students just gives them an opportunity to talk about what they know that they learned and what they can do well, and then talk about some things that they're still a little fuzzy about. Okay, so just to end today, um, post-assessment data check-ins with students really can be so effective, and it just allows time for children to reflect and talk about those misunderstandings. Thinking about a balanced assessment, moving away from just those summative assessments. Like I said, it's really, I love that reflection piece, but it's just not sufficient. Balance assessment is an integral part of planning and successfully implementing targeted small group instruction, differentiated centers, and ultimately reaching or surpassing grade level goals. So think about the elements that you can add to your assessment plan and create a more balanced assessment plan. And think about how you can work with your PLC to do that using your core resource, because we don't want you to recreate the wheel. There's so many good things out there, and I don't want you going down the rabbit hole. All right, I'm going to sign off. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I hope it was helpful. Please reach out to me at any time. Here's some references. Here's our email address at the K3 office. I hope that this was helpful. Thank you.